Hey Patreon friends, look at that. This is such a pretty fall day. I mean, oh, I love it. And look at these chickens. So this is a pallet. And why are they picking on that pallet? Actually, Mr. Hilder has some bears that were brought into him for his taxidermy work. And he flushes those bears against this pallet. He uses it as a backdrop. And you will see, look at how these chickens love that bear fat. That's what's actually on here. Look at that. Yeah, you love that, don't you? Chickens are funny. You don't think that, you know, when people think about chickens, they think about, oh, chickens just eating grains and scratch and corn and stuff like that. But I tell you what, they're little savages. In the wintertime when we're picking up roadkill, or even now when we are hunting and then say we have a carcass after we strip everything we want off of the carcass, I tell you, they pick the rest of it clean. And then when ice fishing comes, we use the, any scrap fish goes to the chickens. Yep. So that's really how we save in a lot of our chicken food. And on this fall day, that's just what I'm here to talk about. Just saving and surviving off the grid or on a homestead with farm animals, because you really do have to be creative and you really do have to kind of think outside the box when it comes to your farm animals. You know, you want to be self-sustainable, you want to be freeing, but then you think about you know, raising farm animals and the cost of that. And you know, for us, we really had to sit down and figure out what was going to be economical, what was going to be feasible. And many of you may have gotten to that point right now where you're broaching that subject, farm animals. What do I get? Do I get ducks and chickens and turkeys? Do I get a cow? Should I get a couple cows? Should I raise some pigs for meat? It's a lot of decisions to be made, especially when you are looking at a homestead where you have some room. Because this is the thing. You know, number one, if you're looking at farm animals, you want to make sure that whatever you choose, you are going to have room for them. That's number one. Every animal takes so many square feet. The bigger the animal, the more you know, area they need. You know, you think about chickens. You don't think chickens need a lot of room, but they need some room. You just Google it. You'll be able to figure out, you know, how much square feet each chicken needs. But even with our coop, when you build a coop, they each need so much square feet in the coop. So now you have to think about building the coop. You have to think about, are you going to free range them? If you don't free range them, is the area that you are choosing to enclose them in big enough? You know, we have this area here, but it also is fenced in way down there. So they do have plenty of room to kind of scratch around. But the other part of, you know, like just even having chickens, is they scratch the heck out of everything. They're very destructive. You can see they destroyed this whole area up here. And now it's growing back a little bit because they lost interest in that. But we were very concerned about erosion. We actually were free-ranging them last year, the year before last, and they got into this area here. Well, you can see how destructive they were. They dug all that up, and there's this tree here, and it was this was the pond. You know, now the pond's dried up, but very destructive. So you have to think about the farm animals, where you're going to put them, and how destructive they could be to the land that you are living on. Because remember, you want to have them in an area where things can be renewed. You know, that area there is getting renewed now because we're moving them. I mean, chicken, like stuff like chicken tractors are great because you can move them around if you have the capacity to do that. But even when you have farm animals that you have to graze, like sheep and goats, people kind of go gonzo over the goats. Everybody's got to have goats, and everybody's got to have sheep. And it's the same thing. Just remember, they need to be moved from area to area too. And they also need shelter. So it is a really big investment when you're talking about farm animals. And, you know, and then you want to look at making sure that they're not breaking the bank. Now, there's great freedom in raising your own animals for meat and for milk, you know, milk and cheese, and for, say, pork and rabbits for meat, and chickens for the eggs and meat, and whatever, you know, you choose. There's so many different farm animals to choose from. But there's also more mouths to feed. Here, obviously, frugally, we do really well with our chickens because I do my own fodder. Right now they're in the garden scratching around, so they've got plenty of food. We buy very little grain because, you know, we're doing things unconventionally. As I said at the beginning of this video, fish, roadkill. We have access to all that, so that's extra food for them. I go to the recycling center. You know the recycling center? We love the recycling center. I can pick up, right now I was just there. People were throwing out their garden spoils. Bring it on home for the chickens to eat. But remember those extra mouths and the cost of that, the cost of bedding. I just stocked up on some straw. I had to re-insulate the chicken coop. We just have backyard chickens. Think about this on a larger scale. Straw now just went up in price from $4 to $6. You know, so when you go into fall, hi Mario, when you go into fall, yeah, what do you get? You get increased prices. Increased prices on grain if there is a disaster somewhere. You know, if there's a hurricane on the East Coast, well, the price of grain could go up. You know, are you going to grow your own feed, some of it? You know, and then you got to remember also in the wintertime, say like around here, we get, you know, the winters, we get snowed in, you can't get out. How are you going to feed those animals? They'll want to keep eating, right? They want to keep eating. So do you have the capacity to stock up on the grain and stock up on your hay and alfalfa? You know, so that means having money ahead of time and the resources ahead of time to do that. So many things to consider, and that's why I'm talking about it today with you friends on Patreon, because I want to build that library of really good info and on self-sustainability, and just so many things do get overlooked. It gets overlooked. And you know, chickens, you think, oh, chickens are going to be the easiest things to raise, and they are. But again, you gotta cover all the bases. See, we've been there, done that for you. We're doing the hard work right now. So write some of this stuff down. You'll have this in your library. Just some things to think about. And again, I'll just mention the biggest reason why we decided not to go with more farm animals is number one, we didn't want to be enslaved to them. Number two, we don't have enough land to hold many animals. Number three, we've got free natural resources. We are big hunters. Big hunters. And you know what? Someone mentioned, I think it was actually a friend of mine, who said, you know, we're going to raise our own rabbits. We just think it's so much easier just to have them there in the homestead, and you don't have to go out and do all that extra work to harvest a whitetail or an elk. Well, maybe for those people that is easier. You know, you might find it easier just to raise rabbits for meat. But for us, hunting is not labor intensive at all. We enjoy it. It's part of our lifestyle. We've been doing it. Mr. Hilder's been hunting since he's been 12 years old. He got me into the hunting. It is a source of meat that is abundant. It's always there. And it's you know, no pesticides, non-GMO, healthy, the best. And then when you're raising your own, obviously. But there are two different ways to look at it. Some people look at it as that being really difficult, and that's why they choose to raise their own meat. And you saw, we raise meat birds. We haven't gone back to raise any meat birds this year. We did 2 different flocks. We enjoyed it, and we loved the meat that we got out of it. But because we are now still hunting. We have plenty of meat, and we still have some chickens, so we don't have to get any more meat birds. But maybe next year we will. But many things to think about. And, you know, and here's the other thing. Like Patera over in Tennessee, she's got a big farm. Lots of chickens. But, you know, she's got a big family. She does get some help from her boys. She can make a little bit of money off of her farm eggs. And she's got land. But she's got a different philosophy at looking at farm animals. But she will warn you, too. Be aware what you're getting into, because it's a lot of work. And she just tells it the way it is, too. She knows, you know, the people don't be messing around. Don't be messing around with Patera, because she tells you just the way it is, and she's going to say, people, you want to fail? You want to fail at homesteading? You know, you go ahead and buy those backyard chickens. You go ahead and you get those goats, and you go ahead and you get that cow. And then when you run out of money, or you run out of feed, or you find it, or the ordinances, oh, you didn't check the ordinance, and now they're taking away the cow and the chickens, and see, we're pretty smart, us real homesteaders. Yeah. So that's why you sign up for us on Patreon. People like Patera and me, we're giving you the straight talk, and that's why we like it. We can say whatever we want. And there's no trolls to say shame on you. All right. God bless, and just another one for the Library Bank.